SAENERGY Acquisition Public Facility Corporation. I don't know if we want to make any adjustments. Is everybody just going to sit here through that? Okay. This is different because, for example, you're on the board.
Yes.
Okay. So I want to welcome everybody. And you.
Dolores.
So, Ms. Shellman, you're going to begin by giving us an overview.
Yes, I have two things I'm going to talk about for 7 minutes, but I won't take that long. And the first thing, I just wanted to give everyone a very brief overview of the PFC. You've asked for some detailed information, and you will get that next month. But in 2007, the City Council created, at CPS Energy's request, the San Antonio Acquisition Public Facility Corporation. And we did it in order to facilitate a very specific transaction that we thought would benefit our customers, and it has. The city, after the creation of the PFC, issued tax-exempt bonds, $644 million of them, to finance prepayment of a 20-year gas supply. And we did it with J. Aaron, which was a Goldman Sachs subsidiary. The PFC then entered into natural gas supply agreement with the city through CPS Energy. And so we take this gas, it's pay as you go, the price is indexed with a discount, and the savings that we realize are passed through directly to our natural gas distribution customers. And so as Paula said, it's been incredibly profitable for our customers, very good for them, and you'll get details on that. So that's what you're meeting on today, and we appreciate the fact that the board members of our Board of Trustees are also members of the Board of Directors of the PFC, which also has two additional directors, Paula and Dolores. And so the second thing I was going to mention is to confirm what Paula said earlier, that Dolores, as a new employee of CPS Energy and in the CFO position, was appointed by the City Council in June of this year to her role as a director on the board of the PFC. And so with that, the PFC is ready to proceed, and there are some important things to discuss, and I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Ms. Shellman. So the item 3 on the agenda is the approval of the board minute meetings from February 18th, 2019. And those are in your vote. We've got a motion from Dr. Mackey. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Gold-Williams. Any discussion on the minutes? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. The minutes are approved. Next, we have a presentation in External Auditor's Report on Integrated Financial and Internal Controls Audit. And that's Mr. Gary Gold.
Good afternoon. I'm actually introducing today Ms. Jody Dobson from Baker Tilly is here to present the results of the integrated audit. As Paula mentioned earlier, this year the audit for the PFC is different. It was an integrated financial and internal controls audit with Baker Tilly looking at the internal controls. Also here today, along with Jody, are Carmen Garcia from CC Garcia, as well as one of her employees. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jody to be able to present the results of the audit. As Paula noted, we got a favorable, clean opinion on that, but I will let Jody go through all of that.
Thank you very much for having me here today. As was noted, Carmen and David are both here from CC Garcia, and they partner with us on the audit for both CPS and PFC. So I wanted to thank you for having us here today. Just also to note a couple things that are different this year. We'll talk a little bit about the integrated audit, but also I'm new to your audit engagement this year as the partner leading the engagement, and CC Garcia is new this year as well. We were able to keep some other individuals, their project manager and some of the staff consistent, and what that allowed us to do is bring a blend of fresh perspective as well as continuity for efficiency to the audit process. So what we want to do today is look at an audit overview as we're looking kind of the high-level results from the audit, touch on some required communication to you as the governing board, and also internal control communications that we as the auditor are required to communicate with you. And then, of course, address any questions that you might have on the audit process or results. So as far as the audit overview, the financial statements are management's responsibility, and all of the information in there is pulled together by your management team. Our responsibility as the auditor is to plan the audit and design our tests in order to be able to issue our opinion, and that's really where we do. So we start that in that planning process by getting a high-level view of your processes and controls and your transactions in order to let us develop that audit plan. Where do we need to focus our time, or where are the key risks? And so here we have just a handful of the areas that we look at. Internal control over financial reporting is obviously one of the most important areas because that's the ultimate deliverable that we're giving an opinion on. But some of the key transaction cycles are the prepaid assets, or the contract there, valuation of investments, revenue recognition, and of course the debt transactions and all the related disclosures for that. So then we go through the key business processes and the procedures, and also looking at some of the disclosures related to those transactions. And really our testing here is a combination of walkthroughs, of detailed test of transactions, substantive testing to supporting documentation, external confirmations, etc. And all of that process leads to the results that you're looking for. So overall, the audit went very smoothly this year. There were no major difficulties. Management was not only cooperative, but they were available. They had everything ready for us. And able to answer any questions that we had throughout the process, and we asked plenty of questions throughout the process. The schedule was maintained and there was good communication. We actually finished up our field work in May, and this last bullet point is really key. I want to point this out. No adjusting journal entries were noted during the audit. That's a very high bar.
Excellent.
And so that gives you a lot of confidence in the information that you're getting throughout the year. And it just says a lot about the attention to detail that's put into the financial reporting. So our audit was performed in accordance with generally accepted accounting or auditing standards. And as I said, we are really looking at what are the key risk areas, and it's a balance of inherent risk and control risk. So when we look at this, inherent risk is for each type of transaction or transaction cycle, what is the risk that something could go wrong? And that's often based on, we're looking at what's the volume of activity, the types of transactions, how complex are they? And then we're also weighing the control risk, which is the risk that a misstatement would not be prevented or detected and corrected by your processes or your controls. So it's looking at both sides. And again, here are the same list of transaction cycles that we focus on for this entity. So the integrated audit objective, this was new this year at your request, is to obtain a reasonable assurance that the financial statements are not only free from financial misstatement, but also whether effective internal control was maintained in all material respects. So a standard financial audit is just looking at giving an opinion on the financial statements or the output. But with the integrated audit, we were also giving an opinion on that internal control that related to that information. And the ultimate results here was an unmodified opinion on the financial statements, which is the highest level of assurance that we can give. And also in the opinion that the internal control over financial reporting was maintained in all material respects. So that's really the outcome that you're looking for from the audit process. Just a little bit more on that new process with the integrated audit. That was a significant undertaking. So your team worked with PwC to go through and document the controls, to test all of their key controls. There's a lot of front-end work that had to go on before we could do that audit. And ultimately, management issued a written statement on the internal controls that's attached to the financial statement document. And that's really where then our opinion is saying, based on our tests of what management has put together, that their statement is correct, that those internal controls were in place. So of course, there's a number of other things that we have to communicate as part of the audit. I just want to go over these at a high level because the good news is there's not a lot to report here. So as part of looking at the financial statements, we will look at any significant accounting policies. Those are outlined in note number 1 to the financial statements. There were no changes to accounting policies this year for the organization. We also look at estimates, look at the key inputs and methodologies for the estimates to see if they seem fair and reasonable in relation to the financial statements taken as a whole, and no concerns came up there. We had no difficulties during the financial audit. As already noted, no misstatements or uncorrected misstatements. So the uncorrected would be if there was something identified that was not significant enough to need to be adjusted, but still had to be communicated, and we had none of those either. We had no disagreements with management or any other findings as a result of the audit. And here again, there were no audit adjustments to correct. So that's really a testament to the quality of the reporting that you've got here. As part of the audit, we do ask that management provide us a management representation letter. And this is attached to the formal communication that you receive. Just outlines that they've given us the information, confirms some of the policies and procedures in place. If there were consultations with other auditors or other accountants about the application of accounting policies, things that may be controversial, we would have to disclose that to you. Not aware of anything like that happening. And we have maintained our independence as required by the AICPA in order to issue the audit. If there were anything that came to our attention during the financial audit process that indicated that there was a weakness in internal control, such that we felt there was a possibility of a material misstatement to the financial statements, we would be required to communicate those to you. And I'm happy to say that there was nothing noted during the audit that fell into these categories that we would have to communicate. So with that, I can say, we really appreciate all the work that went in. As I said, we asked for a lot of information during the audit process, and we know it's not convenient. So we definitely appreciate that. But I'm happy to answer any other questions that you may have on the audit process or results.
I might call forward Ms. Garcia and Mr. Perez, if they're here. If y'all want to come forward too. And, I did this last year, so
Yes.
maybe you're not so surprised.
I remember.
No, I think since you all are participating, and it's good to have you come before us, and just to ask you if there are any comments or additional things you want to tell us.
Not at all. We are very happy to be a part of this audit, of course, and we are grateful for the work, certainly, but certainly inspired by the level of quality that we see in the staff and in the reporting of this organization. And it makes our job a lot easier.
Ms. Perez?
No, we just appreciate the work with the staff that, getting the work papers together for us to audit and to do our work. So we appreciate that.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So the question I have, I guess I took the lead in urging that we have this integrated audit and look into the internal controls, since we hadn't done that since the beginning of the corporation back in 2007. But I don't know what everybody else's thought is, but I don't, because it's somewhat expensive to do that. So would you be thinking we're going to do this every year? Is it an integrated audit, or we just do it periodically?
I think we would like to do this one again for sure, because we want to see if we could pick up leverage, because we're actually thinking about the bigger audit to do it as well. But the first year, you spend a lot of time in the documentation and you get consultants to help you do it. We'd like to do it again to see where those benefits were, and then we could create a long-term plan also including what you were looking for. How do you move up to the big audit? So I think we're not ready to say do it every other year or whatever. We want to get our feet up under.
So you want to keep go
We'd
forward?
like to do another one of these to make sure that we can, I think it'll be more efficient, and it'll be interesting to do the changes in the control environment and have the staff learn with our auditors about what that looks like, and then be able to come and tell you that we can create a plan for the big audit, because I think that is going to take a lot of effort. This was big, but it's exponential when you put it on the CPS Energy audit.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, I
or
think
comments?
that's a good idea.
So I'm looking now, I believe, for
Or recommendation, I should
a
say.
resolution accepting the integrated audit results. So I've got a motion from the mayor. Do I have a second?
Second,
Second from Ms. Gonzalez. Any discussion?
there's somebody out there, but I want to get credit.
She's closer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The resolution carries, and the integrated audit results are accepted. So we move to the next item, presentation on directors and officers insurance renewal, and it's Mr. Orlando Flores introducing Corey Kaczynski.
Thank you, sir, and good afternoon. So at CPS, we have a very comprehensive suite of insurance products to mitigate a variety of risks, as you would expect. And as Paula alluded to earlier today, one of those policies in particular is the directors and officers policy for the PSC. And so today, Orlando Flores, our Director of Enterprise Risk Management and Solutions, will briefly walk us through some of the key features of the policy and specifically the renewal that he will ask for a vote at the end. So with that, I'll introduce Orlando.
I have you all backwards. You're in.
That's all right.
Okay.
Thanks, Board.
So good afternoon, and thanks again, once again for your time. But today's presentation, the purpose is to provide an overview of the PFC Directors and Officers Insurance, as well as request your approval. So as we go look at the objectives and takeaways, we'll look at we'll request your approval for the annual PFC D&O insurance. On the agenda today, what we'll be covering is we'll provide an overview of the current program, as well as compare it to the new program, and then request your approval. So as we take a look at an overview of the PFC D&O insurance program, again, the PFC, it's a nonprofit corporation that's a separate entity from CPS Energy. And so thus it'll have a separate insurance policy. The policy's been in place since the PFC was formed back in April of 2007. And again, the policy protects against legal claims for wrongful acts, breach of duty, errors and omissions, as well as misstatements or neglect. So as we take a look at the insurance program, the new program, our current program, which expires at the end of this month, has a policy limit of $20 million and a deductible of $100,000, and currently the premium is around $50,000. The program is underwritten by AIG. They cover the first $10 million, and then the second layer of $10 million, or the second $10 million is covered by Axis. The renewal program quote right now is coming in a little over $58,000. And the reason it's driven by AIG's increase in D&O losses, as far as not only in the increase of severity, but also in the number of losses that they've been experiencing. In addition, they've also noted that they've been even further risk is in the energy industry. And so we also had our broker, Marsh, test other markets. They also went out to Aegis and got other quotes, and they also came in higher than the AIG quote.
Yeah, it's like an 8.9 increase.
So again, just want to request your approval to a resolution to authorize the renewal of the PFC's D&O insurance program. And what it does, it provides the policy effective August the 1st until July 31st of next year. $20 million policy limit, $100,000 deductible, and then again, the annual premium not to exceed $59,000. And just a particular note here is that any type of premium and deductible are covered by the PFC.
So, Boris, how did you come up with the policy limit of $20 million?
The policy limit, the first $10 million, we went based on what we had with the CPS Energy, and then it was asked, could we add another layer? So that's how we came up
Right,
with it.
but if you're thinking of a policy limit, what's the thought on $20 million?
$20 million is what we use as a standard for us for CPS Energy.
There wasn't an algebraic calculation. The risk on the program was actually fairly low. We did it to just create a more of a belt and suspenders view on the transaction. And so we thought that the $10 million was a good place to start, and the board asked us to double it, but there is no algebraic perspective on that.
Well, if I recall, under the lower policy, when we increased it to 20 million, the incremental cost was negligible. Most of the cost is on the base portion, so it wasn't proportional.
Then, of course, in a sense, I guess we're sort of self-insured up to 100,000.
That's correct, yes.
What if we raise that deductible? Could we reduce the premium?
There's a possibility of reducing the premium, yes, by raising the deductible.
What if we doubled the deductible? How much would that reduce the premium?
We could follow up and see what those reductions would be.
My recommendation would be, if you want to do that, I think, because we're due for renewal by what date?
By end of this month.
End of this month. Sorry, we probably should have been sooner. So we can renew this one and then bring you back a fulsome view of what it looks like, so we can get positioned to do that again. But the cost, and we'll compare it, but the cost, I don't think it's going to go down tremendously unless you raise the deductible way up. We wanted a lot of coverage. There's good margin in the program, but we also didn't want the program to overpay for the premium coverage.
Well, if you think about it, insurance is sort of thinking about catastrophic whatever. So it's a good thing to look at raising that deductible and seeing if we could save something on the premium. I don't know what that would be until I look at the numbers, but.
Yeah, the main thing, I'm one that pushed on this because this is a volunteer position, and I don't want to get wiped out from my small net worth. So I would like to make sure that there's no gap, that we renew on August 1, like you talked about. And then we go back and ask the question, but then I want to make sure that bottom line stays in there, and that the PFC has enough money to cover the deductible if that ever happens. So that's the only caveat that I have.
We'll bring it back.
Okay. Well, so we're going to go ahead and act on it today because we need to.
Yeah.
Right? Is that?
With the recommendation that it comes
Okay.
in the future back.
You'll continue to look at that.
Yes,
I'd like
sir.
to be
Correct.
interested in what those numbers are.
We'll do that.
No, I just made a motion to renew the policy.
All right, from the mayor, and there's a second. You got it, okay.
He was closer.
From Ms. Lindsay Jones, all right.
I want you to walk up.
Any
with her.
discussion?
Present.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries.
I tied with her back to the
All right, thank you, Ms. Flores. And so it says close out review action items from this meeting. Are there any?
We are going to follow up on the insurance, and we're going to come back to a plan to propose how do we move forward with the internal control
Okay.
review in future years.
Yeah.
So Ms. Lindsay Jones, would you like to make a motion to adjourn?
And then Dr. Mackey gets
Is there- yeah.
Come on, Mr. Mackey, come on.
Thank you.
Is there a second right here? Okay, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed?
No, he hasn't been serious. He hasn't been serious.
That's all right.
Oh, you want to discuss the motion to adjourn?
Next time, yes.
Okay. Okay.
You're welcome to stay back.
The meeting's adjourned.
You
All
can
right.
stay if you'd like.
You want to hang out with us longer?
And no one's gonna take it or anything. You're doing it all.